Okay, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Though in retrospect, the recaps were amusing enough that perhaps they should have been caught on the recording. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, um, as engaging as all of your current positions are, I want to start with just the briefest of interludes tonight. Um, and I think we've seen your house before, Frankie, but primarily like from your room. We haven't really walked around it very much. Um,
Did you mean Frankie or did you mean to say Andy?
Frankie,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so this just remind me, describe for me what kind of house Frankie and Frankie's family live in.
Um, I've always sort of assumed it's a nice little like 3 or 4 bedroom house. Dad uses one of the bedrooms as an office at home. Mom uses one as a sewing room. Uh, and then there's of course the master bedroom, probably with an attached bathroom, maybe a walk-in closet.
Sure.
Uh, not sure.
So kind of a
Uh,
comfortably middle class sort of feeling.
yeah, yeah, very much. Kind of got this image of one of the houses we lived in when I was a kid, where there's a living room and then there's a family room,
Hmm.
and the living room is always kept pristine for guests to sit in, and the family room is where the TV is.
Uh-huh.
So kind
And
of
not quite as pristine.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Although still neatly kept, because mom, she
Well,
she can't let the house not be perfect.
sure.
She's
Sure.
sort she's very much a leftover from the 50s sort of a mom. She always wears the dress and the stockings and the heels, which of course is crazy by most people's standards these days to try and clean a house dressed like that,
Yes.
but she does.
Dedication.
And she always wears an apron when she's in the kitchen.
Sure. So when the last we had heard from Frankie's mom was that Frankie had sent a fairly concerning text saying that we need to talk about um, talk about things.
How? Yeah.
Um, and then when Frankie's mom replied, Frankie promptly said, "I'm busy tonight."
Yeah. Thereby leaving poor mom to stew in her own wishful thinking.
Yes. But also with the explicit statement that you're not home and you haven't said when you'll be home, and you are still a high school teenager. So, um, what like there's been a couple things that like you've mentioned the sewing room, you've mentioned the cooking, you've mentioned a predisposition towards cleaning, and we have previously also talked about Frankie's mom being something of a soap opera junkie. So when she is feeling somewhat nervous and um is a little on edge, which of those activities does she indulge in to take her mind off things?
Oh, she's cleaning everything. There's disinfecting, there's bleaching, there is waxing of floors. It's all happening. That house is gonna like shine like a diamond when the sun hits it in the morning.
Sure, sure. For every imperfection in her life, the house is made just a little more perfect. Okay. Well, just very briefly, and this probably happens a little bit before because we're pretty late into Wednesday night with all the ensemble cast. Um, but so this probably happens a little bit earlier, but yeah. So she, at the moment, she when the scene starts, she is in the kitchen cleaning the counters. Um, like they were already clean, but like that extra just like shine, right? The gives fulfillment and satisfaction. Um, and the it's bad enough that Frankie has uh, you know kind of stood her up uh, from something that Frankie themselves had actually tried to set. Um, so and I don't that you're I'm totally blanking it, so I can't remember if your text gave any how much context your text gave. Do you remember? Like that's one of the things that
To
I should have reviewed notes over for, but between it being a minute and the events of the week.
let me see if I can find it. It may take me a minute.
Sure.
Let's see. Uh, see, last contact with mom. Did I even put down? Mom's worried about her. She's been waiting all night for Frankie so they can talk about the bombshell. Mom has moved on from the tea to hot toddies. Didn't have
Yes.
a note about that.
Yes, because that's
Um,
where your new fellow got his name.
right, right. Let's see. Let's see if I can find the mom's stuff. Oh dear. Yeah. File the trailer. Andy's house. Good lord.
Uh, well, I can kind of work around it for the
Here, so, oh, here we go. The last thing mom heard was, oh yeah, um, Frankie had said we need to talk. Mom had said, "I'm always here for you, honey. Is this about that boy Andy and the ring he gave you?" And Frankie had replied with, "No, it's about me being." And then as far as I can tell, mom just got a I can't tonight. I'm busy.
yes, yeah. Uh,
So
so
yeah,
you
that was
cut
the
off
last
there for a
mom
moment.
had heard.
What was the wording? What?
I actually can't find the specific
Okay,
info at this point.
but it was explicitly about your origins.
Oh, yeah, it was. No, it's about me being a wish,
Gotcha. Okay.
not a real, being a wish and not a real person.
Yes. Yes. So there was explicit context given.
Yeah, yeah.
Um. Okay. Yeah. So I take everything that I've said about your mom being stressed and I bump it up a magnitude. Um.
Poor mom.
Like yeah, she is full in. She is all in and is more than a little tipsy at this point. Um. Uh, it's hard to keep track of how many hot toddies have been gone through in the process of this cleaning. Um, and the part of like she hardly notices when, like, because it's not just that Frankie has dropped this bombshell, but also Frankie's father is a little late in coming home today. So she is literally by herself in the house, stewing on the secret that she hoped to never have to actually share, uh, and all of the ramifications of that. Um, so uh, she hardly notices when the door opens and closes, and Frankie's father comes home rather late and very tired and very very stressed. Uh, he like he's in his own world as well. Um, and he hears movement in the kitchen. He takes off his jacket, goes in to set some stuff down and talk with Andy's mom. Um, and before
Frankie's
even
mom.
like really like acknowledging that she is like, because the bare practice that she's going through is not necessarily an indicative of a super high stress night, right? The fact that she's drinking a hot toddy and cleaning. So it takes a moment for um, the actual tension in the air to hit him. Um, and so he starts answering questions that he would have expected her to ask, not noticing that she hasn't actually asked them.
Right.
And explains that he's sorry that about coming home late, that the meeting was last minute and unexpected, and like he could strangle Craig Johnson for pulling this, but he's home now, and oh my God, are you okay? um and the camera sees Frankie's mom turn around and look at him, and it cuts before she says anything. But there is that look of, you know, that secrets long kept are about to be revealed.
Oh my. All
Um,
right.
okay, and so with that very brief prelude out of the way, um, you all are in different places doing different things. So I have notes for how to jump in with any of you, but I leave the table open if anybody is feeling particularly enthusiastic about jumping in.
Anyone? Y'all kind of look at each other.
This
I just don't think I can really do anything until Andy gets home. I think I'm just.
Sure.
There's a whole person you could do.
Oh my God, I'm not gonna fucking. God.
There.
I'm trying to pull up Andy's thing on my other screen so I can like.
How would it even start? Like,
What does Andy's dad look like?
potatoes are delicious. Like, I don't.
I mean, is he a hot silver fox kind of guy, or
The witchy wild.
He would be if he weren't also like. Well, I mean, he is, but it depends on your flavor of silver fox because he's a giant nerd.
Nice.
giant
There you
nerd?
go.
There we go.
Yeah, I believe the firmest introduction that we got to him so far was that his idea of a hot night with the house to himself was watching 50s era Looney Tunes.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
eating
right.
cheese and crackers.
Specifically, the Bugs Bunny special where he's running around like a Viking maiden tormenting Homer Fudd.
So
Yes.
are we talking like socks and sandals, or like?
Not quite like kind of frumpy professor
Mm.
We'll grab drink.
Okay.
But he is like, you can tell he's like older if you look closely, but he does seem strangely like young for somebody to have a high school age son.
You kind of got that like vaguely not eternal youth, but prolonged youth look to him.
Yeah, well preserved.
Fuck someone's dad because I'm bored. Like, you're wrong.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you know, if you follow through on Andy's advice, which is ethically and morally dubious, to be clear.
Like a lot of my advice.
You don't necessarily actually have to sleep with him. You just have to seduce him. There's no diagram, but it's, you know, not completely overlapping.
It's called being a good host.
Come on, Cordelia, start that seduction ball rolling.
Andy's gonna come home to this.
How old are we? We're like 17?
We're seniors in high school.
Well, are we 16 or are we 17?
Actually, this would be the spring of your junior year.
Oh, this is still junior year. Okay.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, depending on when you were born, you might be 17 then, but.
Yeah, I'm going to say Cordelia is 17. That's going to make some of my other plans later not so weird.
What was that?
I said I'm going to make Cordelia 17 because that's going to make some of my other plans that I have not as awkward.
Okay.
Because I have him.
Sure. Well, since we're spending regardless of whether or not Cordelia is into silver foxes, since the game's attention has been drawn your way, Cordelia,
Yeah.
The first thing is going to be you're sitting in Andy's room, right? And for the moment, you're alone in there. Andy's father has just shown up. He was making snacks for you guys with the understanding that Andy would be showing up to do some studying. So what is Cordelia doing in Andy's room? Are you being a good friend and sitting passively on the bed and not rooting through things, or are you being a forward-thinking witch who gains power by having people's personal items?
Yeah, I think that I wouldn't say that Cordelia is like rooting through her his things, but
just a light stealing.
A casual kind of
Casual burglary. Theft, maybe.
Anything that's open access.
Right, just kind of peeking into drawers, maybe kind of.
Just a light mine.
Just don't steal any more sex toys. Just.
Or do.
Oh,
it worked real well last time.
No, I had to use all of the sex toys to get what I wanted done.
And there were so many, it worked perfectly.
I feel like Andy doesn't have a giant box of
collection.
Sex toys, but I could be wrong. So I'm gonna keep my eye out for a giant box of sex toys.
And this is how the seducing begins.
Oh God.
Time plays a trick on us, and you don't actually end up waiting for Andy as long as you think you are. Andy's gonna come home to this.
Oh no.
Well,
I
was not going to encourage it until you said that, Andy. But okay. So Cordelia, you're casually looking through things that aren't strapped down.
Right.
Oh,
One does.
wow.
Um,
Oh.
so yeah, um, I I can give you the option of a gaze into the abyss roll while you're there. If you have a question about Andy that you would like to ask, that you might be able to deduce from the things around you. Or we can just jump to Andy explaining some of the things that you might find.
Hmm. Uh, I think I think I do want to take something. I guess uh hmm. I'm not sure. Uh
Okay, well, let's go ahead and make the first off the gaze into the abyss roll just to see
sure.
how basically the search roll.
Yeah.
Um, and by my notes, you currently have a +2 dark. Is that right?
Uh yes.
Okay, so you get an 11, which means that you're going to be able to find something, a personal effect that would be relevant to, like, that would function as a sympathetic token. Um, so I guess now the question is what exactly that would be.
Um
You might have put yourself in danger rolling so well, depending on whether you take the obvious thing or not.
oh.
So what type of thing does Cordelia take? And if you want to workshop this with Andy's character or with Andy's player, it's totally fine.
Uh I don't know. I mean, you mentioned that Andy has like a thing about like oh like a thing about like jewelry, right? Like, would there be some piece of jewelry that, or was that what you're talking about, that it would be bad to take? I don't know how fairies work. I don't know how the fae work. I don't know what stealing from them is like.
Well, the good news is that one, like, Andy's not fully aware of what, like, some of their stuff, even though
Right.
they're rapidly approaching that. And also, being a teenager, somewhat mercurial, whether or not they even considered stealing is
Mm,
because he did invite you into their house, so
right.
there's a certain assumption of but that's also then, if you take something, does he consider it a gift?
Mm,
But he'll have a lot of jewelry around. The stuff that's going to be really, like, easily accessible is actually the higher end stuff that obviously, like, came from his mom. There's going to be a couple pieces left from his dad that he can't wear anymore, but that he is clearly like takes care of and organizes a little bit more. Or there's a lot of like music paraphernalia. There's an instrument and some guitar picks and some show tickets, ticket stubs.
Okay. Maybe we should take one of the guitar picks, actually. That seems like something that would be maybe have some like sentimental value, but not be super obviously.
That makes a lot of sense. And so, you know, to give you just the vaguest amount of narrative cover here, Cordelia, as you're like looking through things and you know, like you pick up the guitar pick, you suddenly hear a noise behind you at the door of the room, as Andy's father kind of pokes around the corner. Like you only see the top half of him. He's literally trying to be unobtrusive as he looks in.
Yeah.
And he I'm not going to make you roll to you know, keep your cool. This in part gives you the opportunity.
Should I roll hot? Should I roll to seduce him?
Yeah, you can. Do you want to?
No.
Okay.
Unless I'm about to get in trouble, and then maybe.
No, I'm giving you the potential cover of saying that you slipped it into your pocket accidentally, because Andy's dad interrupts you at that very moment. And pokes his head around the corner and it like, oh, Cordelia, was it?
Uh-huh.
I don't mean to pry. It's kind of late though. Do you know when Andy would be getting back? You said that Andy was coming here tonight.
Yeah, I think he's on his way. I think maybe he was gonna make a stop real quick on the way home, but should I think any minute now.
Okay. And he looks at his watch, you know, going with the frumpy professor, rather than the phone. He still has the watch.
Right.
And if you were to ask him, he would explain that, you know, the getting out the phone is just very inconvenient, and you know, this way you can just like look down.
Right.
So he looks at his watch. Says, oh, okay, all right. Well, I'll be around if you need anything. and goes off. But you can tell that there was a little bit of concern in his voice, because it is a cold night and it is late.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, Cordelia's probably starting to feel a little bit impatient herself as well. Like, why isn't Andy here yet?
Sure.
You don't have a token if you wanted to.
You could
that's
spy on
true.
Andy.
Now I know.
Though, that's a good question. I mean, you do have that potentiality now. And actually, in terms of having ammo to try it out, you have an entire room of ammo.
Right. I think before I do that, I'm probably gonna just send him another text like, "Hey, are you on your way?"
Your dad keeps checking in on me. Where are you?
Right.
He's kind of cute. Get back soon. Okay. So we don't have to jump to Andy, but for the sake of expediency, I want to say that in the fairy realm, your phone does not buzz, Andy. The reception is not necessarily the greatest.
Right.
Not a lot
I'm-
of towers in the fairy realm.
I'm good with
If
jumping.
you don't have Verizon.
Yeah. So jumping to Andy. When we last saw you, you were standing on the tree line outside of, like, in the Feywild, or in the fairy realm rather. Don't want to do that thing. In the fairy realm, and Red Jack and his court were dancing around a bonfire with drums being beaten.
You froze.
Am I still frozen?
No, I think there's just a lag. Never mind. Go ahead.
So Red Jack and his court had been trying to summon Andy, or at least Andy had felt the pull of the court. But before you had been able to go into the court itself, while you're still on the threshold, you had seen Logan Amati standing behind a tree, motioning to be quiet and to follow him. And as I recall, you had taken him up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. So by default, we will the camera would be tracking the two of you as he leads you through the misty woods. And actually, he's going to be heading away from the bonfire and the drums. He's not just taking you around the outskirts of it. He is leading you away. Do you have any objections, or do you follow suit?
I don't have any objections. I'm kind of running on like teenager, both the infatuation and the part where at one point, like, he taught me music and
Sure.
whatnot. So I'm just like, okay, this is a weird party that you've brought me to. Where's the rest of your band? But
Uh-huh.
you know,
Okay. When you
like almost kind of for a moment, like the past history overriding the strangeness or the actual context, and just kind of being like, oh, we're going out to some other like music festival or something, and
Sure.
for like 5 seconds, wow.
Yeah. So when he gets far enough away that he feels comfortable actually, like, communicating a little bit more, he stops, he turns around, and he looks Andy straight in the eyes with a fairly piercing look. And I think, if I remember correctly, on the descriptor for Andy, you had chosen piercing eyes as well. So
Yeah.
you have mutually piercing eyes in this moment.
Oh.
Yeah. And he again, and he reaches into a pouch of all things, because apparently, in addition to like, you realize that in addition to, like, the faux leather jacket that he's wearing, and the boots, and like all of the kinds of flair of this like senior or graduate that kind of has that indie rock persona, you realize that underneath that he is wearing, like, strangely archaic clothes, including kind of that, like, poet's tunic, and like an old school belt, and there is a gilded dirk by his side, and you might be embarrassed to realize that he is wearing a codpiece. And as you know,
Oh yeah. Andy's well and truly flustered now.
And your attention to draw is to both the codpiece and the ornate dirk is drawn as he reaches down to his belt to the pouch and pulls out what look like a some dried I mean the simplest thing to describe them as, he's pulled out some shrooms.
Shrooms?
Yeah, he pulls out some shrooms and he puts one in his mouth and leans in and says, "It'll soften the drums," and holds up the one, like, while he's leaning into your face, he holds up that small amount of space between you and him.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, like the mother bird feeding type.
Oh, sure, that's the vibe we're going with.
Well, that's not the vibe. It's just the description of the action. And he follows that up by saying that his father wants to have a chat with you, and maybe make a deal. As he's still holding the shroom like 4 inches from your mouth.
Poor Andy. I think like initially when he was doing it, Andy was gonna kind of try and lean into the like, shotgunning vibe or whatever and be suave or seductive with it, but then he says he wants to meet his dad, and Andy's just kind of like,
Okay. And it takes a moment, but he's giving you this wide grin as you take this room. And it will take a few moments for you to have to feel anything at all. But in the absence of any action by you, the two of you will just stand there until you start to feel it will make the drumming, the sound of the drumming, start to soften, and the bonfire will seem increasingly distant.
okay. I was going to like maybe, because at this point I've definitely clocked that this is not our normal context.
Mhm.
Like back in the real world now, so to speak.
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask like what's going on, or like I thought that your dad was at the same like business deal or whatever with my mom or something. Did not like
He kind of pauses, and the grin goes from this like, there's an extra level of mischief that's added to the grin. And he says, "There are layers to everything."
I think Andy's gonna sass him a bit, just like kind of, because they do have at least somewhat of established rapport for all that like the interest might not be both ways. Like deep man, like kind of like I see you putting on your indie musician persona, uh, and kind of like literally like elbow him or touchy feely. Like,
Sure. And as you sass him and do the elbow thing, he takes leans in with a half step, and doing that thing where like his head is to the side of yours, and not in a whisper, but this is probably the loudest thing that he said since because he's been kind of like conspicuously quiet because of Red Jack. But as the effects of the shroom start to take in, he becomes a little more confident, and he says, "Well, now that you're awakening, you'll get a chance to see the real parties." Um, and so we're going to go ahead and jump scenes again, but we're going to leave Andy with the mist is changing, and it is going from this kind of like greenish bluish tint to this kind of like uh, grayish white. Um, and there is an indication that um, your environment is changing around you. Which leaves us to jump to the next player. Who wants to be up?
Sorry.
Guess that's me.
Sure. Okay.
Right. So back at the motel.
Yes. And let's go ahead and jump to the room has been rented, and you guys are in it. Given
Bad 70s decor rooms like they show in Supernatural all the time.
Oh yeah, and
Maybe one of those quarter machines for the vibrating bed.
sure. And you can't tell if it's that he just didn't think it through, or that he is getting this room for you and he's like has other plans for himself, but he only got the one bed. So left to his own devices, he is actually having a little bit of a troubled time. He pulls out his he's caught between forces. On the one hand, he feels protective towards Frankie, and on the other hand, he has loyalty to the Huntsman militia. And these things are apparently at cross purposes, and it's not like this is a hidden thing because they saw him grab you and run off.
Right.
So there is some explaining to do. And so the first shot that we would see is him standing by the window and opening, like peeking through the curtain, with no obvious reason to expect anybody to show up, just as a manifestation of a degree of paranoid anxiety. As he pulled out his phone, which he had put on silent when he was in axe murderer stalking mode. And the camera will catch that he has in the past hour that you guys have been separate from the construction site, he has missed 20 calls and has 20 voicemails.
Oh my.
And so he looks at his phone and is says he's kind of doing the like repeating "oh fuck" as he tries to figure out how to navigate his current situation, which leaves the high school student standing in the motel room with this very buff, confused, and anxious older man. So, How is Frankie doing?
Great. Well, Frankie's okay because she's Frankie. Um,
Completely
but
oblivious to
she's
some of the social intricacies.
she's kind of like scratches at her arm a little bit, and then notices she's got like some little pieces of glass stuck in her arm
Mhm.
from when she went through the window,
Sure.
and be like, "Ow, oh, jeez, man, I got glass in my arm."
Oh, and of course, the natural response from Toddy will be to break, because the big picture uncertainties are ever present, but an immediate wound is something that can be taken care of, concretely. So
Yeah,
he comes over to assist with the cleaning, um, and takes you over to like there's that sink outside of the bathroom in those
uh-huh.
hotel rooms, and starts running some hot water and getting some towels, and starts preparing to clean the wound.
Perfect. Um, Frankie's gonna do a move and use strange impressions on him if she can.
Um, Let me pull that up.
Is
Seinfeld or
Yeah.
let's see if
Oh,
I
yes. Okay. Strange impressions. Oh, well, when the main character either harms you or helps or you heal, you can study them. If you do temporarily gain one or more of their moves, it disappears once you use it. So
right.
this becomes the question of whether this character constitutes a main character, which the default would interpretation would be that designation is exclusively for the players.
Okay,
But
try anyway.
um,
Well, he's interesting. Maybe.
let's I'll let you do a gaze into the abyss roll on this one.
Okay. Okay, I'll take it. Um,
It would not normally work, but I like the idea, so we will see what the dice have to say.
cool.
Okay. Um, so that will be a 9 on the die.
I have dark 2.
Yeah. Well, oh, no, it's 6 on the die plus your 2, so that's where we get the 8. Sorry, I'm not all there. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so you have an 8, which a traditional gaze into the abyss roll means that the abyss shows you confusing and alarming visions, but you get your answer nonetheless. Therefore, um, I will give you the option of going through with it, but um, the consequence is that I'm the one that chooses the move,
Okay.
and you might not necessarily know what it is.
All right. You can go with that. That could get interesting.
Okay, and it does disappear once you use it. So
Right.
the move is down 4 diagonal forward A, and he swings his axe around 3 times and knocks the person into the air. No, bummers.
hmm. Let's go ahead and hmm. Scent of Blood.
Ooh.
Is the name of the move that you get. Add 1 all rolls against those who have been harmed in this scene already.
Interesting.
Uh,
Interesting.
he is something of a bruiser. So with that, what does that look like when for Frankie when Frankie takes on that ability? What does how does Frankie feel as that happens? Is it something that like strikes you in a noticeable way, or is it just kind of a subtle change in the back of your mind?
That's a good question. Scent of blood. Huh.
And if it wasn't clear, that's from the werewolf move list.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna say that at first you just see that she's doing the wide-eyed, almost innocent stare at him, and then this sort of almost you see this like hint of feralness come across her face, and just for a brief moment it looks like she just had a really sneaky thought.
Okay.
And then it just kind of fades back into the standard wide-eyed Frankie look.
Sure. So I'm going to kind of interpret that, at least in part, as there is a part of Frankie that is, whether it's the conscious mind or not, that is reaching out into Toddy and kind of exploring Toddy's, if not mind, being, and is just extracting this. And this will not necessarily work on future NPCs because of the wording, but I do love the exploration of new moves. So yeah, he actually, like, as entranced as he seems to be on cleaning the wound and as focused as he seems to be, he's actually doesn't have like tunnel vision, so he sees that hint of feral, and by the time Frankie transitions back into wide-eyed innocent, he takes the next step in processing that feral look and is somewhat taken aback by it.
Yeah, that would figure.
This means that this small bird that he feels protective of suddenly feels less like a small bird.
Yeah. Okay.
So how does Frankie respond to this?
Frankie kind of looks down at what he's doing, and says, "Thank you for helping take care of me." And she kind of does a little fluttery eye blink thing.
Sure. You had kind of framed your interactions with him previously as ultimately a seduction. Do you want to roll turn someone on?
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Okay.
See what happens. Because she's nothing if not inappropriate.
Sure. Okay, and you currently have a hot of +1?
2.
Oh, 2.
I think. Hang on, let me double check myself. That might have been the wrong sheet I was just looking at. No, hot as one. No, yeah,
There's one. Okay.
darkest. Okay, get that right.
Okay, so you get a 5 on the die, plus 1 comes to 6. So Frankie is, which does not constitute a partial victory, which means you get experience. Congratulations.
Yay! Yay, experience.
Um,
Just like
as Frankie flutters her or their eyelashes in a way that is intended to be somewhat seductive, but that is being applied with all of the social nuance and awareness that comes from Frankie's actions. Um,
yeah.
it it's just a little overstated, and it becomes a little obvious what you're trying to do. And
Uh-huh.
between that and the fact that that Toddy had just for a moment recognized that you are feral and potentially dangerous, the contrast between that and the overtly like innocent seduction just is a little too much dissonance, and he uh, says, "Yeah, sure, anytime," and turns around and walks over and sits on the bed and is just looking at his phone, um, trying to figure out what he's going to do next. Um, so either that's the end of this particular iteration of the scene, or if you have a specific action you want to throw in for the close of that.
Oh, she'll pull out her phone and send a text to Andy saying where she is.
Okay. And once again, Andy, your phone does not ring in the Fey world. Okay. If we are doing one apiece, that would take us to Colin, though we're not strictly bound to one apiece.
We should turn off the.
Do you guys hear this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It finally got cold, and that means it's below 66.
Yeah, let's lower it.
Oh,
Take it down to 60.
All right. The new threshold is 58, so give it just a second.
It should click off soon.
sure. That's impressive. There we go.
It's so loud.
Oh, it changed gears. It's just so loud. So, where we left off with Colin was that he was drunk and like angry, and they had taken him in and like, oh, we're gonna get you more drunk and like tell you the things. So I'm not really sure where to go from here with them.
Sure.
Since they're like giving him in, like, I assume, like letting him in on the secrets.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and we had touched on most of like the big picture stuff last time. Um, your father and the family friend.
Hold on, I can't hear a damn word you're saying over this helicopter of this jet engine. Come on, thing.
Sure.
You just double check something here. Okay. Yeah, it should turn off any minute.
Okay. Well, while that's going on, let's. Did it stop? Nope. Maybe.
It stopped.
Okay.
Okay, we're good.
All right.
Uh,
So we had covered in broad strokes. Your father had revealed that, in fact, that the Huntsman militia had been a part of the township going back to before it was a town, and further
Yeah.
that your family and the other werewolves in the area had long been affiliated with the Huntsman militia.
Yeah.
And that they had been gone for a while, but now that they're back, there's an expectation that you guys will come back into the fold. Um,
Mm.
and he also explains that some of the times when he and Eli and the other guys have gone on late night hunts, it's even though the militia proper has been not active, the werewolves of Loxvale have still on occasion been called upon by the city council to take care of some issue or another late at night or in the
Okay.
woods, or when some critter from of otherworldly nature gets a little too proactive. You guys have been your father and his father and his father and so on have been called
Sure.
in to, you know, uh, do the thing. And then
Okay.
this goes all the way back. Um, and so we had covered those parts. And we had also, like, as I recall, as your father was explaining this background of the hounds of the huntsman being the protectors of Loxvale against Red Jack and his kin. You had revealed that you had had a one-on-one with Red Jack, and much to the surprise and astonishment of both your father and Eli, um, who is not entirely accustomed to being surprised. And so
Sure.
they had actually been sobering you up. They had been giving you water, and upon realizing that you had gone toe to toe with this eldritch fey uh, deity, um, your father had taken the cup of water away from you, and Eli had poured some liquor to replace it with, as they were clapping you on
Sure.
the back with, congratulations. Um, this is uh and you can tell just there's like that undercurrent of concern
Uh-huh.
where in the back of his mind, perhaps covered, you're not sure if the alcohol is helping him cover it or is revealing the ticks, but your father has a moment of feeling concerned about what could have happened given that you
Sure.
soloed Red Jack. Um,
Now, soloed is a bit of a stretch, but yeah, yeah. Soloed Red Jack. We'll go with that.
well, how much detail do you give about the other people that were there?
Well, none unless they ask, because unless we get into the actual story, it was just the off the cuff. Yeah, kicked his ass.
Sure, sure. Actually, yeah, they upon handing you the alcohol, um, your father, like they were preparing to give you this rather somber, speech and bring you on board and like all these things, because I mean, convincing a teenage uh, kid with anger issues that yes, his mom is around, but she is an undead beast, and he just needs to sit tight while people off her. Um, that,
That's gonna start a fight.
that's a hard conversation, right? But
It's a hard no.
but for the moment, the thing that has caught their attention is that you did this kick-ass thing. So they give you the
Yeah.
cup of alcohol, and then they sit on the chairs opposite the couch and lean forward. So how'd it happen?
What happened?
You said that you got into a scrap with Red Jack.
Yeah, and I took the field. Take its way. Oh, got this for it. Like point to the wound that's still healing.
And they do that thing where they go from like leaning in with rapt attention to like leaning back, and they look at each other and like smack each other's chests to like bring each other's attention to the scar.
Yeah.
Like congratulating each other on raising such a good kid.
Right. It was a fucked up night. I was following. See, I've been investigating. I haven't just been sitting here doing nothing. I've been fucking investigating, and I followed the Craig Johnson guy, who, by the way, has been around a lot of disappearances. But yeah, I tracked him out into the woods, and I came upon some kids from the school who were being attacked. I think, yeah, they were being attacked by Red Jack. I didn't know the name at that point. Just a big, red, scary dude. And at first, when I burst into the scene, I thought it was like Craig Johnson all transformed into some hideous monstrosity. Because all these people working for him had been disappearing, and he'd been all weird and acting squirrely. But it wasn't. It was this other guy, and so I beat his ass and chased him off, took the field. He hits hard though. I don't really want to do that again anytime soon.
Your father, like, damn right he hits hard. We generally avoid him. Like, and
I wasn't gonna let him murder kids.
And he goes from this like rather elated, proud father moment to like that somber concern that had been kind of creeping in the back, and like, not seriously. That's how your great grandfather died. Was holding Red Jack off while the others got away.
Sorry, you said holding Red Jack off.
Oh.
He's a teenage kid who's drunk.
And that your father doesn't quite get it at first, but Eli starts snickering and does that like patting your father on the chest thing, and eventually your father gets it, and that somber mood gets just dissolves, because yeah, you got wounded, but you're here, and fuck it, that's an awesome story.
But yeah, so that's kind of the thing, but the thing about this town is that nobody fucking tells the truth about anything, and like, Like, you got all these people doing all this weird shit, and nobody wants to talk about it. But like, I want to be all happy with you guys, but you two, you were fighting with her about something important. And now these guys are taking the school that they were working on, and weird shit's going down there too, and nobody's talking about it. So talk to me. What's going on? I mean, if you don't, we're just gonna go back there and all this shit's gonna happen again. Next time there's gonna be more guards.
Uh-huh. Um, Eli and your father at this point both lean back in their chairs and look at each other and then look to you, and um your father, or no, I'm gonna go ahead and say that Eli is the one that he leans forward again and says, it really is simple. We protect Loxvale from the dark things in the wood. We are the loyal guardians of the people and the humans of this town. And there are forces that are trying to work their way in, and we're here to stop that. And the thing,
Wards?
what?
Wait, hold on. He wouldn't have not gotten that. Never mind. Because he didn't know about. I don't think anyone's told my character about the wards, like having originally been different witches, like moving back into the town, right? That would have been more of a Cordelia thing to know, right?
You're thinking about the Morning Stars.
Morning Stars. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Would I forget? Did my character know about that, or was that just Cordelia? I don't want to metagame this. Did we discuss about the Morning Stars?
I mean,
Having been other witches, and then like they've been slowly gaining ground in the town.
I don't remember if we've had a. Cordelia would have shared any knowledge that she had on that, but I don't remember if we've been together to discuss that since she would have found that up.
Well, you would definitely know that the Morning Stars are actively working to get into the town.
And if I remember correctly, we know that like they're a part of this. The Morning Stars have been working with the wards to build the school, right?
Right.
And my character knows that and
Yeah.
knows that they were witches that were like rivals to your family, right?
That's a reasonable thing for. I don't know if that conversation happened on screen, but that's a reasonable thing for you and Cordelia to have communicated.
Okay, I didn't want to like. I realized that I may have not. I didn't quite remember, and I may have been metagaming this. I wasn't sure.
Sure.
All right, but yeah, he'll be like, oh, you mean like the Morning Stars?
And the Eli and your father look to each other and look back, and Eli puts his drink down on the coaster, and
That's a first.
right, and says, yeah, like the Morning Stars.
Okay, but they're the ones who are helping to build the school, and that mom was against, right?
Yeah.
So why are we trying to protect it from her? That makes no fucking sense. Well, I mean, we've got all this magic here. Why aren't we getting somebody in this town to help reverse or even figure the fuck out what happened? I mean, she's right there. We could at least ask her Who drove her off that cliff?
There's a pause, and Eli, like, okay, first and like, obviously you haven't been informed of a whole lot of things, and I'm not sure how much you know, but they're just gonna start.
But I'm surprising them with my knowledge, damn it.
Oh yeah.
More than I should.
You know things that you haven't revealed, right? And
Right.
so Eli lays it out and says that going all the way back to the town, the formation of the township, the Good Clan and the Morning Stars have been competition to each other.
Yeah.
And the big picture here is we don't like either of them.
Okay.
They have served a purpose in helping, like, as intermediaries between the township and the dark things, but we've started to come around to the idea that we can establish a more permanent safety for the town. But we can't take on either of them directly. And they look to each other. And so it's a little bit of old school strategy. We help the competition come in, and we let them soften each other up first.
What does that have to do with Mom?
And your father is conspicuously silent. I mean, Eli's been the one that's been talking anyway, but Eli sits straight up with a kind of rigidity and says, "Kid, that's not your mom. That is a necrotic not living. That is a necrotic embodiment of a promise that won't go away."
What do you mean?
Your mother was making deals with some of the other folks on the council that were contrary to the strategy. And we're not exactly sure how of all the details in that. We just know that it ended poorly. And that her body or her spirit has become fixated on, in life, she had been trying to stop the school from being built, and her spirit has become fixated on that. So she will stop at nothing to stop the school from being built.
Okay, here's where we need to move. A move of some kind here. I'm thinking, shoot, I'm not sure. I'm thinking peer into the abyss.
Okay.
And we're at night, which helps me. Because no, I don't have that, do I? I just have the spirit armor. That's all right. He's just said that she was on an opposing side,
mm-hmm.
and that it didn't work out for her.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's alluded to old school strategy. So, for a moment, Colin has to wonder, if the old school strategy included getting rid of her from their side.
Sure.
And so he will like lean in and look into Eli's eyes and like hand gripped on the chair and peer into the abyss and ask him if uh, what do you mean it didn't work out for her?
Sure.
And like I want to roll for it. My dark is -1,
Mhm.
which I believe is what that is, right?
Yep. So, all right. It's an 8 on the die, which -1 puts you at a
7.
7.
Close enough.
So on a 7 through 9, the abyss shows you confusing and alarming visions, but you get your answer nonetheless.
Sure.
Um, so restate your question for me.
The peer into the abyss question is did this faction
Mhm.
do are they responsible? Is Eli somehow connected to the people responsible with it? You know what I mean? Like, is his faction responsible for her dying? And he'll be like trying to measure. I imagine it like he's peering into the abyss by like looking deep into the guy's eyes and trying to like find out if he's lying when he answers, "What do you mean by like using all those heightened details and
Sure.
senses and stuff to try to like
Sure.
catch what he's getting at."
Sure. If this had been a 10 plus, we would focus in on the guy's pulse and we'd hear his heartbeat and maybe a beat of sweat,
Sure.
like all these close-ups. As a 7,
Sure.
it's not going to be nearly so clinical, but on the surface, what happens is that Eli leans, like as you're leaning forward with this kind of rigid tension and
Yeah.
fierce focus, Eli uh, matches, not with the same kind of aggression, but he leans
I like
forward and he gets this rigid tension to him, right?
they're all dominance people. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So like he's not asserting dominance, but he is showing that he's not backing down, right?
Right. Right. I like it.
Um, and on the surface, what he says is, "We don't know what happened to your mom. We don't know what killed
Okay.
her. All we know is what she's become. And even if what she's become wasn't strategically poor for us, what she's become is a monstrosity." So that's what happens on the surface.
Sure.
Like behind his eyes, in the darkness, in the void of Eli's mind, in the base of his soul, you get several gut impressions. And this is where the alarming visions come in. We had mentioned before, like, there was an implication that these types of werewolves are the sort that perhaps live a long time.
Yeah.
And Eli was uh, grayed hair. There was an implication that he was an older fellow.
Yeah.
So as he's saying, like, in this very straightforward, assertive, "We don't know, but it doesn't matter right now," kind of thing. You're trying to get a sense if he and the people he's connected with are responsible for this dark and terrible thing.
Right.
And what the abyss of his soul shows you is that his soul is an abyss, right? You get a glimpse, you get a sense that he has done absolutely terrible things, and has been doing them for a very, very long time.
Okay.
And the most unnerving part about that, like, we don't get clear visions of this, but we get, like these, like the camera is constantly like moving and we only see little clips, so there's just a sense of movement, and sounds that are hard to pin. But the most unnerving part about that is not the fact that Eli has apparently, like, things such as killing innocent people and lying and, the sort of things that one might argue that the ends justify the means, and he's not necessarily a villain just because he has done the hard thing, right?
Sure.
But there's been an awful lot of hard things.
Sure.
The thing that's unnerving is not so much that it shows a part of Eli that you had been unaware of, but
Right.
it's not inherently contradictory. What's unnerving is that there are things about your father that have always felt a little off, that you've,
Yeah.
like when you've butted heads, there's always just been this
Yeah.
thing that you can't quite place. And you realize that
Sure.
some of this darkness in Eli feels familiar. And you realize that some of this has been in your father your entire life.
Right.
And as you become aware of, being a werewolf, there have been a degree of, well, obviously that's just what it is. And it occurs
Right.
to you now that that's not all that it was.
Yeah.
But for all of these dark things, and for all of these hard things that Eli has done, he's telling the truth
Okay.
when he says that they don't know exactly what happened to your mom. But what she is now, even aside from any strategy or anything like that, is the exact thing that we're tasked with taking care of. And with that, he sits back, and looks to your father, and your father kind of chimes in, and we're not a part of this hunt, son. This isn't on our plate. All we have to do is sit tight and let the rest of the pack do their thing. They know that it's not for us.
Wait, but it's still our pack doing it?
And he takes a drink. The huntsman and the other hounds, yeah.
Finish my drink, throw it back, lay it back, put it down and say, no, but you guys are wrong about something. You're not fucking thinking. And I'll lean forward and be like, see, yeah, it's not mom, right? You said it's not her. There's no chance it's her. Does that mean you know exactly what it is?
And this time it's your father that says it. It's an unfulfilled and undying promise to somebody,
Yeah,
or
yeah. A name. Is there a name for this type of thing? You guys just call it an unfulfilled or undying promise? There's nothing catchier?
And he they look to each other.
Ghost? Spirit? Specter? Come on, guys. What are we dealing with?
Yeah, ghost.
Okay. Okay.
That's the core of it.
That ghost remembers things. It remembers, at the very least, that the high school is important, right?
They look to each other and nod.
Okay. So then it's got part of her mind and can at the very least tell us how she died. And y'all didn't think to, like, I don't know, ask it? Let's go there right now and ask it. Who killed you? Why? Maybe I'm the drunk one here, but it seems like it's, the first thing we do.
And you realize that your father feels a bit cowed about his inaction. And
Put on the phone with him. Let him know we're coming. Get him to let us in. Fuck, I don't. Also, just to be clear, we're werewolves. There are witches. Does anyone here know a necromancer? I'm just saying.
Oh.
For that, they have an answer, which is no.
Damn it.
But like Eli tries the hold to the party line of saying, that's not how it works. There's that part of her. That isn't what is driving the specter. That isn't what's driving the undying promise. Right.
Sure, but like.
And your father kind of chimes in. And unless the undying promise was revenge on the people that killed her. And Eli looks at him but if she's going after people that are building the school. These people have nothing, to do with anything that would have involved her direct death. And
how do you know? Do you know who did? And if not, you don't know, they could be.
And your father chimes in. The Morning Stars are behind the school, and there could be a connection there.
I'm just saying, if it's a dead end, we should find that out before they kill her. Again.
Eli stands up, and he sees that you're having an effect on your father, and looks at the both of you and says, No, this is being taken care of.
Being taken care of? Her murderer is still fucking out there. What are you being taken care of?
At this point, Eli gets in your face.
Cool.
And says, Sit down, boy.
All right, so I know I gotta roll something at here because like I'm a werewolf. Someone just tried to assert dominance against me in a moment where I am righteously indignant. So what kind of role do you think as if I should have to make here to not attack him or go to my darkest self?
Well, to not attack him would be a keep your cool roll.
Okay.
So name what you're afraid of and roll cold. On a 10+, you keep your cool and gain an insight. You can ask a question and take one forward on that information. On a 7 through 9, the MC tells you how your actions would leave you vulnerable, decide if you go through with it.
All right, what I'm afraid of is losing my cool and like attacking him and like losing this potential spout of information, like shutting that off because I'm petulant, or even worse, on a worst case scenario, going full frothing at the mouth, in which case I would turn into a werewolf, and with potentially like get into a real fight with him, or even try to go back without my faculties. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Like try to do it anyways.
Sure.
Now, because for keep my cool rolls, I have a 2 because of spirit armor being active since it's super late at night.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So. Oh.
What is it?
A 12 on the die.
Oh shit!
So a 14. My good friend Colin, you have never kept your cool this well.
All right. So like, not only do I keep my cool, but is there any bonuses that come along with a high roll with keeping it cool?
Yeah, you gain an insight. You can ask me a question that you want to know about the situation, and I will answer it to the best of my ability. And you get a bonus when you apply information.
I want to know why he's so emphatically against us going and like even trying to communicate with this thing.
Okay.
Like there is some reason outside of what he's saying that he is so emphatically against this.
Sure. He's trying to protect you. He's trying to protect you, and he's trying to protect your father. You
from the pain of seeing her, or from the people?
Both. The most pressing part is from having anything to do with her. From like being confronted with what he believes is the reality of what she is. From like, sacrificing yourself on that altar in the desperate hope that she's something other than what she is. Or just being crushed at seeing this thing and like losing that part of your memory of her.
Okay.
But there's another layer to that protection, which is also those dark things that he's done. Some of those things were, for what he believed or was told was the greater good. And he has an idea of what the moving pieces are in the situation, but he's not guaranteed that his understanding is completely accurate. And it's a lot safer if you just don't get involved, because maybe there's something he doesn't understand, and you getting involved means that he gets involved in ways he doesn't want to.
My whole manner is going to soften, and the camera kind of does that like focus on the faces thing for just a moment, where you see him like looking into Eli's eyes and then like believing him and softening, and like fists unclench, and I'll look down for a moment. Look, Uncle Eli, I know you love us. And I know you care about us. And I know you want to keep us safe. But doing nothing, letting her memory fade, I can't do it. It's not keeping me safe. It would mean killing a part of myself I can't kill. And it would mean letting them go, letting the people who did this go, letting them think that it's okay, letting her die without any remembrance. I can't do it. I went out tonight knowing that I could be killed, knowing that my friends could be killed, and I did shit that might have been stupid. I don't know. And I did it because I can't not do it. I can't sit here in this house and live with myself. If I died right now, I'd be a ghost too, because this would be unfinished. I have to have answers of some kind. And there's a way I can get them down the street. And there are some assholes between me and those answers. And the fact that I haven't buried my teeth in their necks is proof that I'm trying. But we can't just leave it alone. I can't just leave it alone. So you want to help, then help. Help us find the answers. If you don't, then beat my ass if you need to. But I'm still going to get up the next morning and fucking do this. I have to know. So Uncle Eli, what's it going to be? You going to help us? You going to help us do it safer? Or are you just going to have to take the beating?
And as you're saying that, the camera is, like, your father hasn't stood up or done anything particularly active, but the camera is framing it so that he's over your shoulder as you're saying us.
Right.
And Eli is a little taken aback. He doesn't have an immediate snappy answer, and the fact that you softened means that he doesn't have to maintain that assertiveness in the same way.
I am so glad I rolled well on that. That was like really important.
Sure. He looks to you, then looks to your father. He's looking at your father as he speaks this time, and he says, I'll make some phone calls. Okay. I'll make some phone calls. I'll see what's going on. I'll see what we can dig up. And he walks back onto the porch and pulls out a cell phone. And he's in the shadows, and it's now you and your father standing or you're standing and your father is sitting in a chair in the living room.
Seems like a perfect time for a scene cut, fade to black end thing for that scene. So,
sure.
Like us just having a shared look of like connection after a long time, but neither of us willing to admit it.
Yes. Yeah.
And then it fades. I kept my cool. I didn't, abandon toxic masculinity.
Sure. Yeah, well, and also part of what you did is the things that he had beaten himself into not doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, that's where we have the cut on your scene. It is getting late enough that I don't want to do too much more tonight, but I think we have enough room for maybe a half scene, or like just a little bit more, some vignettes. If yeah. So who wants to be up? Cordelia, Frankie, or Andy? And I will look vaguely, not in anybody's eyes, while you think about it.
Andy's got some text messages when he gets back to
Reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pee, guys. I'll be back.
I'm trying to figure out the wording because I wanted to try and set something up. Like that last line you closed on with Logan seemed kind of fun for a couple different things.
Mm-hmm.
But like before, like while it's swirling around and Andy's like drugged out and a little bit low on the inhibition scale.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay. Well, I think for like either a quarter scene or a half scene, I think one thing that would be valuable with Andy is basically you are moving through the fairy world at the moment. So I would like to establish tonight where your destination is going to be. And I don't know that I have it in me to do a full description, but by default, Logan will be leading you to the like basically Mr. Amati's court in the fairy realm.
mm-hmm.
And its analog position in the real world is, a lot farther than you'd be able to travel normally.
Right.
But, so we would see you and Logan walking through the mist and the trees kind of giving way and disappearing and the mist becoming everything. And then as the mist starts to clear, you'd find yourself in a grove that there's a clearing in the middle, and beyond it is a fantastical, ornate version of Mr. Amati's estate.
Okay.
And standing at the threshold between the circle of the clearing in the trees and the estate itself would be Mr. Amati.
Okay.
Just kind of waiting for you and Logan to come back.
Okay.
So
There's no action for Andy to do here, so I don't.
Sure.
I think we do a different scene.
Okay.
If you're trying to get something out of, because you're not. I'm having a hard time coming up with anything to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of describing this kind of vignette. If there's something that you want Andy to like, how does Andy respond when you come out on the other side?
I hadn't thought that far. Like the vignette I was thinking of was like picking up right before right where it left off. Like it wasn't rolling for plot so much as character development, but
Okay.
don't worry. Just move to somebody else.
Okay.
Well.
And I think, yeah, I'm starting to hit the brick wall. But another just quarter scene to give some framing would be over on in Cordelia's side. Andy's father is like some time is passing, and Andy's father is beginning to become legitimately concerned. And like he's starting to ask you, where was the last place you saw Andy? Like has Andy been responding to texts?
Yeah, at this point, Cordelia is oh fuck. Probably gonna just like fuck. Cordelia's just at this point gonna give up on Andy showing up. She's not sure like where he is, but probably will just tell Andy's dad like oh, actually Andy just texted me and I'm at the wrong place. We're meeting at our other friend's house. Like, sorry, he's fine. He's at our friend's house. I'm actually gonna head over there. We're just gonna spend the night over there.
Okay. We will cut there. There might be follow up, but like I said, I'm hitting that wall.
Sure.
And I think I'm good with that being like I think I don't quite have
All
it.
I'm saying is, I think it would be hilarious if there was just like a 5-second vignette of Linda's character, Frankie. Thank you. Frankie being like not knowing what to do now that it's kind of awkward with her and Axe Murderer Man, and then being like, "Oh right, hey, you want to see this video my friend and I have been like my friend showed me? It's really cool." And like pulling out her phone and like turning on, like trying to entertain him by showing him this video that Frankie found interesting, and it's like fucking porn because that's what they've been doing all summer.
Oh.
Oh, that is an entertaining idea, but I'm not sure that's where Frankie would go because awkwardness is just kind of comfortable with Frankie.
Sure.
Frankie doesn't find awkwardness uncomfortable.
We'll go ahead and have that Cordelia be the last scene, unless Frankie, you have something that you want to like include as prep for next session.
I was just thinking she might go over and sit down on the bed too, and just kind of be like, look at him and go, "I've had a really weird day. How about you?"
Okay, and we'll cut it there. Okay, we will call it a night at that with that, and
Excellent.
I will go ahead and end the recording.
All right.